If you enjoyed this video, please subscribe to the channel and show your kindness and support.
The morning light slipped through the thin curtains before the alarm could ring, pale and gentle, as if it did not want to disturb the weight already resting on her heart. She lay awake, eyes open, staring at the ceiling where small cracks formed shapes she had memorized over months of sleepless mornings. Her mind was loud with worries she had carried into the night: rent due in a week, groceries running low, messages from creditors unanswered because she did not know what to say. Her body felt heavy, but not with sleep. It was the heaviness of uncertainty, the kind that settles deep in the chest and makes breathing feel like work. Slowly, she pushed herself up and sat on the edge of the bed. The floor was cold under her feet, a sharp reminder that another day had begun whether she felt ready or not. For a moment, she considered lying back down, pulling the blanket over her head, hiding from the world. But something within her resisted that urge. A quiet voice, familiar yet often ignored, whispered that this morning mattered. That even now, even here, she was not alone. She walked to the small table near the window where an old Bible rested, its pages soft from years of turning. Beside it was a chipped mug, empty, waiting for tea she had not yet made. She placed her hands on the table and closed her eyes. Words did not come immediately. All she felt was tiredness, of trying, of hoping, of believing when circumstances gave her no evidence to support that belief. "Lord," she finally whispered, her voice barely audible, "I don't know how today will work out." The honesty of the words surprised her. She was used to trying to sound strong in prayer, trying to choose the right phrases, the faithful ones. But this morning, there was no energy for that. "I don't know how I'll manage. But I'm here." Silence followed, not the uncomfortable kind, but a stillness that felt like space opening up inside her. Memories surfaced uninvited. Stories she had heard since childhood, stories she had believed easily then. She remembered Elijah sitting by the brook, hungry and afraid, yet fed by ravens day after day. She remembered the Israelites waking to find manna covering the ground, enough for each day, never too much, never too little. She remembered how often provision came not in abundance, but in sufficiency. Her breathing slowed as these thoughts settled. She opened her eyes and looked at the Bible. The cover was worn, corners frayed, but it had survived many seasons with her, seasons of joy and seasons of loss. She opened it randomly, not searching for anything specific, just letting the pages fall where they would. Her eyes landed on words she had read many times before, yet today they felt different, alive in a way she could not explain. They spoke of trust, of seeking first the kingdom, of a father who knows what his children need before they even ask. Tears welled up, not from sadness alone, but from a strange mix of relief and longing. She realized how tightly she had been holding her worries, as if carrying them herself proved responsibility. Letting go felt risky. What if nothing changed? What if trusting only led to disappointment? These fears had kept her awake night after night, convincing her that control, even false control, was safer than faith. She bowed her head again. "I choose to trust you," she said slowly, as if teaching herself the words. "Not because everything is okay, but because you are." Saying it did not magically erase her problems, but something shifted. The tight knot in her chest loosened just a little. It was enough to notice. She stood and went to the kitchen, filling the kettle with water. The simple routine grounded her. As the kettle heated, she looked around the small space, plain cabinets, a nearly empty fridge. Sunlight spilling across the counter. It was not much, but it was hers, and it was evidence that she had been carried this far. She poured the hot water into the mug, the steam rising like a silent prayer. As she sipped her tea, she thought about the day ahead. There were tasks she had been avoiding, calls to make, applications to submit, conversations she feared. Normally, just thinking about them would make her stomach churn. Today, the anxiety was still there, but it no longer felt paralyzing. It felt manageable, as if she were not meant to face it alone. She remembered a time years ago when provision had come unexpectedly. She had almost forgotten it, buried under more recent struggles. Back then, she had been in a similar situation, unsure how she would pay for something essential. Out of nowhere, a friend had reached out, offering help without knowing the full extent of her need. At the time, she had called it coincidence. Now, she wondered if it had been something more. Finishing her tea, she whispered another prayer, not for money, not for solutions, but for guidance. "Show me what to do next," she asked. "Give me wisdom for this day." It felt like a small request compared to the mountain of problems she faced, but it was honest. And for the first time in a while, honesty felt like enough. She got dressed slowly, choosing clothes that were clean but simple. As she looked in the mirror, she barely recognized the woman staring back. Dark circles under her eyes, lines of worry etched across her face. Yet there was also something else, an unfamiliar softness, a hint of calm she had not seen in months. She straightened her shoulders and met her own gaze. "You are not abandoned," she said quietly, as if reminding herself of a truth that needed repetition. Stepping outside, the cool morning air filled her lungs. The street was waking up, shops opening, children heading to school, birds calling from unseen places. Life was moving forward, indifferent to her worries, yet strangely inviting. She began walking, not in a hurry, allowing her thoughts to flow without fighting them. As she walked, she noticed small things she usually overlooked: the way sunlight reflected off windows, the sound of laughter in the distance, the smell of fresh bread from a nearby bakery. These details did not solve her problems, but they reminded her that goodness still existed alongside hardship. That the world was not as bleak as her fears made it seem. Her phone buzzed in her pocket. Instinctively, tension returned. She expected another reminder, another demand. Hesitantly, she checked the screen. It was a message from an old acquaintance she had not spoken to in months, asking how she was and mentioning a potential job opportunity they thought she might be interested in. It was not a guarantee, not a solution yet, but it was something. She stopped walking, heart beating faster, and read the message again to make sure she had not imagined it. A quiet laugh escaped her lips, half disbelief, half gratitude. She looked up at the sky, blue and white above her, and whispered, "Thank you." The words came easily, unforced. In that moment, she understood something she had struggled to grasp before. Provision was not always dramatic. It did not always arrive as a sudden miracle that erased every problem. Sometimes, it came as a step, an opening, a reminder that the story was still unfolding. Sometimes, provision was hope returning just when despair threatened to take over. She resumed walking, her steps lighter than before. The worries were still there, waiting, but they no longer defined the morning. Faith had found a small foothold, and she was determined to stand on it. As the day stretched out before her, uncertain yet full of possibility, she carried with her a quiet assurance. The God who had met her in the stillness of the morning would walk with her through whatever came next. As the day moved forward, she carried that quiet assurance with her like a hidden flame, small but steady, warming her thoughts whenever doubt tried to return. The message on her phone stayed in her mind, not as a promise she clung to desperately, but as a sign that she was being seen. She replied carefully, expressing interest without expectation, then slipped the phone back into her pocket. Whatever came of it, she had done what she could for now, and that felt like enough for this moment. She continued toward the bus stop, joining the slow rhythm of the city. People stood nearby, each wrapped in their own concerns, their own hopes. Watching them, she realized how invisible struggles often are. Smiles hid fear, busy movements masked exhaustion. For the first time in a long while, she did not feel isolated by her hardship. She felt connected, part of a larger human story where everyone, in one way or another, was depending on something beyond themselves. On the bus, she found a seat by the window. As the city rolled past, she prayed again, silently this time. Not the urgent prayers of desperation she had grown used to, but a steady conversation. She thanked God for the morning peace, for the message she had received, for strength that felt renewed even though nothing had fully changed yet. Gratitude, she realized, was shifting her focus. It was teaching her to see what was present, not only what was missing. Her thoughts drifted to the idea of provision itself. For so long, she had equated it solely with finances, with tangible answers that could be counted and measured. But now, sitting there, she recognized how much she had already been given. She had been given resilience, the ability to rise even when she felt broken. She had been given clarity, the courage to face reality rather than hide from it. She had been given community, even if it appeared unexpectedly and quietly. She stepped off the bus near a small park and decided to walk through it instead of taking the shortest route. The trees stood tall, their leaves moving gently in the breeze. She sat on a bench for a moment, watching sunlight filter through the branches. The scene reminded her of something she had once read about how God clothes the lilies of the field without effort. If such care was given to things that did not strive or worry, perhaps there was hope for her too. Her phone rang, startling her. It was an unfamiliar number. For a split second, fear surged. Was it another demand, another problem? She considered letting it go to voicemail, but something urged her to answer. The voice on the other end was calm and professional, asking if she was available for a brief conversation later that afternoon regarding the opportunity mentioned in the message earlier. Her heart pounded as she agreed, setting a time. When the call ended, she sat still, letting the moment sink in. Tears filled her eyes, but she did not cry out of panic. These were tears of release, of pressure easing just enough to let emotion escape. She pressed her palms together and whispered thanks again, not because everything was solved, but because hope was now tangible. It had a shape, a time, a voice on the other end of the line. As she stood to leave the park, she noticed an elderly woman struggling with grocery bags nearby. Without hesitation, she walked over and offered help. The woman smiled warmly, grateful, and together they walked a short distance, talking about simple things, the weather, the neighborhood, the kindness of strangers. When they parted ways, the woman squeezed her hand and said, "God bless you." The words lingered with her long after. She realized then that provision also flowed through her, not just to her. Even in her need, she could be a source of help, of light, of comfort. This understanding humbled her. It shifted her perspective from waiting passively for rescue to participating actively in grace. The afternoon passed slowly but purposefully. She prepared for the call, reviewing her experiences, reminding herself of her abilities. In the past, she would have approached this with fear, convinced she was not enough. Now, there was a quiet confidence, not rooted in self-assurance alone, but in the belief that whatever happened, she would not be abandoned. When the call came, she answered calmly. The conversation was encouraging, filled with genuine interest and possibility. It was not a final offer, but it was a door opening wider. When it ended, she felt a mix of excitement and peace. She had shown up, spoken honestly, and trusted the outcome beyond that. As evening approached, she returned home. The space felt different now, not because anything had physically changed, but because she had. She sat again at the small table by the window, the same place where the morning had begun. Looking back on the day, she marveled at how much had unfolded from a simple, honest prayer. She opened her Bible once more, this time with intention. Her eyes landed on words about daily bread, about trusting for today rather than worrying about tomorrow. The message felt personal, almost tender. She understood now that faith was not about certainty, it was about relationship. It was about showing up day after day, even when answers were incomplete. As night settled in, she prepared a simple meal, grateful for what she had. She ate slowly, savoring each bite, aware of how easily she had taken such things for granted before. Afterward, she sat quietly, reflecting. The fear that had dominated her mornings for so long felt distant, not gone entirely, but no longer in control. Before going to bed, she prayed one last time. This prayer was different from all the others. There was no list of requests, no urgency. Just gratitude, trust, and surrender. "Thank you for providing," she said softly. "Thank you for today. I place tomorrow in your hands." Lying down, she felt a deep sense of rest, the kind that reaches beyond the body into the soul. She knew challenges would return. Bills would still need to be paid, decisions would still need to be made. But she also knew something else now. She was not walking this path alone. As sleep gently claimed her, a final thought settled in her heart like a promise. The God who met her in the quiet of the morning, who guided her steps through the day, would remain faithful. Provision might come in many forms, at many times, but it would come. And that truth was enough to carry her into a peaceful night and into whatever dawn awaited her next.